Hey, Joe from Boulet's Garage here. I'm going to replace a transmission pan and fluid in a 2013 Nissan Juke. Watch this video if you have one of these vehicles and you are going to attempt to do it yourself. Hold on, right after this. Joe from Boulet's. So today I got this Nissan Juke in here, a very salty Nissan Juke here in the Northeast. And the customer is requesting that the transmission fluid is replaced along with the transmission pan. I got one here for it. And the only thing they're doing, I don't recommend. I recommended they use genuine Nissan fluid so they don't end up with a problem. But they already bought the fluid and they want me to use it, so I'm going to make sure that it's documented. So yeah, they're using the Valvoline CVT fluid. Maybe they won't have a problem with it, but I would like to stay with the Nissan fluid. Yeah, it's a lot more expensive, but you know, if you end up having to replace a transmission afterwards, that's a little bit more expensive than the Nissan fluid. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this and we'll see what happens. I took it for a ride beforehand, no shifting issues, but with over 120,000 miles on it, it's never had the fluid done. I'm kind of like holding my breath here. So, I'm gonna have my other heater going in the background, so it's gonna be a little bit louder. Just apologizing ahead of time. All right, so moving on now. Okay, so I didn't mention before that this Nissan Juke I'm changing the transmission pan on is a 2013. So the gasket for it's a TOS 18755 Felpro, and the oil pan for the transmission is a 265-846. As always, I'm going to put the car up in the air and I'm going to verify we got the same amount of bolt holes and the pan looks right before I jump at it, you know what I mean? So you have a dipstick on this Juke, and for the automatic transmission, the CVT fluid, the CVT transmission, I stand corrected. So it's not running, but I just pulled it out. It's a little bit over the top line on the dipstick. I usually do this just to get some kind of benchmark, and then you check it appropriately afterwards. It's supposed to take 5 quarts of CVT fluid. But always you'll check it after you do the service, you know. All right, so moving on now. Yeah, as you can see, the transmission pan on this Juke is quite rusted. Not leaking yet, but it's a good idea to replace it. And this customer's proactive. He crawled under it and noticed it. He got to spray some rust proofing on it though while he's at it. And also think about doing the engine oil pan. That would be what I would do. I mean, that's actually weeping oil through that oil pan in the engine. So I'm gonna definitely mention that. Oh, there goes my waste oil heater. So I'm gonna get to this. I should be able to reuse most of these bolts. Shouldn't be a problem. And I got 20 bolt holes on the new oil pan. So I'm gonna obviously count these and make sure beforehand. Okay. So I'm draining the fluid out of the transmission now. A 19mm socket fits that drain plug. Didn't note it before, but if you're planning on doing this yourself on your back, you might have a problem when you get up here because you got this subframe right in the way, a lower core support. And that's going to be a little bit tricky to get the front ones. Luckily, they're not that rusted. If the flats were all rounded off on it, I'd have probably a big problem. But I'm just throwing that out there. And when you actually, you get your new pan, You got your drain plug there. I put a wrench on it, make sure it's snug, or a socket. I replaced an oil pan once, an aftermarket one, and it ended up having a slow leak because it wasn't completely torqued. As far as torque spec goes, I'm just going to tighten it till it's snug. I also wanted to mention, if you're going to be on your back doing any kind of work, you want to wear these safety glasses. During my years of being a mechanic, I've taken a couple techs from the dealership to the hospital to get metal pulled out of their eye. It's not a good thing at all. In fact, just the other day, I had a car in here. I got a piece of sand in my eye. Went and sat in the emergency room for 3 hours. And it started to feel better. But what I did is I scratched the cornea a little bit, and I used the saline drops, or saline rinse. Next day was a lot better. Day after that, it was completely healed. But don't mess with your eyes, seriously. You don't need a piece of rust or anything else falling in it, and it can happen. It does all the time. Okay, so I got the old pan off, and many of you might say, well, why aren't you doing the filter? Well, that filter, I don't know if you can see it, it's just a wire mesh screen. Contacted Nissan, they said they've never even sold one, so if that thing gets plugged, you got bigger problems. But in the old pan, you see your magnets. You're going to want to clean those out. You can see the amount of metal that's attracted to those magnets that's been stopped from recirculating through the transmission. I got a new gasket for it, and just a word of advice: if you get this fluid on you, it stinks, like pretty bad. Not as bad as Honda. Honda smells like cow manure. I think they could make it smell a little bit better than that, but I guess not. So the front bolts on this were kind of a little bit of a challenge. If you're on your back, I wouldn't recommend doing this job on your back. Now, if you live in a part of the country where they don't use salt on the roads, well, you might think different. So this doesn't apply to you really. But anyway, I'm gonna move on here. I'm gonna swap the magnets over, and yeah, clean the magnets first and swap them over to the new pan. Okay, the new pan's all on, and everything went pretty well. Like I said, you really don't want to replace these or remove these front bolts for this pan on your back. That would not be fun. So now I'm going to put fluid in it. I still have to check the torque on that. So usually like a 6mm bolt is going to be like 10 foot-pounds if you need to know. I've been doing this for a long time. I just snug them up. If you over tighten them, you're going to mush the gasket out of the way, and then you're going to cause a leak. So over tightening is not the right thing to do. From Boulez, finish up the CVT transmission oil pan replacement and fluid replacement in the 2013 Nissan Juke. Everything went well. Had no issues with the ATF from Valvoline, the CVT ATF, at least not short term. Road tested the vehicle, brought it back in, checked for leaks, double checked the fluid level, everything was fine. So hopefully this video has helped you out if you are attempting to do this on your Juke. Like I said, with the front transmission pan bolts, they were kind of hard to get at. I got at them with a 1/4-inch drive ratchet and a short extension, 10mm socket, but I couldn't imagine doing that on my back. So anyway, so I don't foresee any issues with this transmission fluid, at least not short term. These people baby this car. It doesn't matter how you drive a car. If you're a type of person with any transmission, you're always in a hurry. You throw it in reverse, you back up, you don't come to a complete stop, you throw it and drive. If you do that over the life of a transmission, you're going to pay for it. If you have jackrabbit starts at traffic lights, and you know that type of behavior will greatly shorten the transmission life of any vehicle. So until next time, if you like this video, please do so, and hopefully it's helped you out in case you're attempting to replace a transmission pan in your Juke. Subscribe too if you don't mind.
I really appreciate you and have a great day.